Most people think they understand what's happening in the housing market. They don't. They just don't. And it's not because they're dumb. It's not because they don't watch the news. It's because they're reading the wrong signals. And when you read the wrong signals, you make the wrong decisions. You wait when you should move. You move when you should maybe wait. You overpay for comfort, or you miss opportunity because you wanted certainty. What's happening right now is not chaos. It's separation, which we've talked about. And if you can understand what the market is separating, you can position yourself on the right side of it. Today I'm going to walk through what people think they're seeing, what's actually happening underneath it, and who's gaining leverage first, who gets squeezed, and what smart positioning looks like. Going into 2026, which we are here. If you appreciate calm analysis instead of headline panic, please subscribe. That's what we do here. Here's what most people think is happening. They think the market is frozen. They think rates are too high, so buyers can't buy. Sellers won't sell because they're locked in. So nothing is happening until rates drop. And again, on the surface, this sounds right. Rates are higher than 2020 or 2021. Transaction volume is down from that frenzy. Some listings sit longer. Some price cuts are happening. So people assume this is weakness. But that's the misread. Because a slow market is not automatically a weak market. And the most dangerous assumption on you can make a real estate, it's not a good idea. Everywhere you go, if you're believing this, everybody, it isn't. This is not a single market. It's a collection of micro markets, even inside the same city, even inside the same zip code. A 3-bedroom near top schools behaves differently than a condo with a high HOA fee. A newer home behaves differently than an older home with insurance risk. A seller has to move behaves differently than somebody who's just testing the market. So the headline, "The market is slow," is not strategy. It's a vague description. Strategy requires segmentation. Here's what actually is happening. leverage is being redistributed, like we spoke about. For years, cheap money compressed differences between buyers. When rates were 3%, people could stretch. They could pay more than they should. They could carry higher monthly payments without feeling the pressure immediately. And see, that kind of created an illusion that most households had the same buying power. They didn't. They just had the same interest rate. Now with rates elevated, the real differences show again. This market is separating liquidity from leverage, equity from income. Prepare buyers from emotional buyers. And the people who win in this environment are not always the people with the highest income. It's the people with strong down payments, stable reserves, good credit, low consumer debt, and the ability to negotiate. That's why this isn't dead, it's selective. Selective markets don't feel like booms. They feel like friction. But friction is not failure. Friction is filtering. Okay? The reason people are confused is because they're looking for one signal to explain everything. They want a single answer. Is the market up or down? Is it crashing or not? Is it a good time or a bad time? But really, reality is different parts of the market are doing different things at the same time. That's what separation looks like. Let me give you an example. In many areas, well-priced homes in great condition still move because those homes attract the most qualified buyers. But homes that are overpriced, outdated, hard to insure, or come with a high HOA, sit. And then people walk away and say, see, nobody is buying. No. People are buying. They're just not buying that. That's not a crash. That's a discernment. And discernment increases when payments are high. Because when money costs more, buyers become what? Pickier? And that's rational. Let's talk about the payment. Because this is where the structural separation shows up. When rates move from 3% to 7%, the payment shift is not little. It's huge. Even if price stayed the same, payment jumped. So, buyers didn't just lose affordability, they lost flexibility. At 3%, you could make a mistake and survive it. At 7%, you feel every decision. So buyers are responding and doing one of three things. 1, reduce price point they're shopping at. 2, they demand concessions. 3, they exit and wait. That's why sellers who need top dollar are struggling. Because the buyer isn't evaluating your house emotionally first. They're evaluating the payment. Then they decide if your house earns that payment. That new market psychology? The winners in this market are not screaming about it. They're not posting about it. They're not, quote unquote, calling the bottom. They're quietly doing math. They are gaining leverage because they can move without fear. They usually have cash reserves, strong down payment options, equity they can roll, or a stable income with low debt. So while most people sit in uncertainty, these buyers are asking very specific questions. How long has this home been listed? Is the seller already moved out? Has it fallen out of contract before? What's the insurance? That's reality. What's the HOA? And what does it include? Can we get a rate buy down? Can we negotiate repairs or credits? That is leverage. Leverage isn't just money. Leverage is the ability to walk away. And in a higher rate market, the buyer can walk away. Is the buyer who wins negotiations. Yeah. Now, who gets squeezed? Not everyone collapses. This is not 2008. This is a slower pressure environment. The people who get squeezed are the people who need perfect conditions. They need perfect rate timing, perfect sale timing, perfect buyer timing, perfect pricing, and life doesn't do perfect. So they get stuck. They can look like a seller who wants to move but doesn't want to give up a low rate. A buyer who qualifies on paper but doesn't stomach the payment. A family that needs more space but can't afford the jump. This creates what I call quiet inventory. Not panic inventory. Quiet inventory. It's the listing that appears because someone's life forced a decision. Job move, divorce, new baby, parent care, taxes, insurance. not fear, but life. And those are the listings that create opportunity, if you know how to spot them. Here's the big misread again. Clearly, people assume slow equals weak, but slow can mean capital is cautious, financing is real again, buyers are underwriting their own lives, sellers are being forced to price honestly. This isn't failure. That's the market returning to consequence. And consequence is, it's healthy, let's be honest. Because consequence prevents mania. The last cycle removed consequence. This cycle brings it back. And markets with consequence reward preparation. Now, let's talk about 2026. Because everybody wants to know what happens when rates drop. Here's the truth. If rates ease, activity increases. But leverage does not magically reset to 2021. That is fantasy. That era of stimulation, shock, and cheap capital, it's not coming back, well, at least in the same form. So what happens in 2026 is not a return to that. It's a reallocation. If rates move down even a bit, some buyers re-enter. Some sellers get braver. Some markets reaccelerate. But the separation dynamic stays. Because the separation isn't caused by rates alone. It's caused by debt loads, insurance risk, tax burdens, household stability, and liquidity. So don't build your plan on rate hope, please. Build your plan on personal strength. If you want smart positioning in this market, here it is. And it's not glamorous. Sorry, I'm not. It's practical. 1, reduce consumer debt. Because debt kills approval and confidence. 2, build liquidity. Because liquidity gives you optionality. 3, protect credit. Because credit is your leverage tool. 4, study your local micro market, not national headlines. 5, negotiate like a professional, not like an emotional shopper. And if you're a buyer, your goal isn't to time the bottom. Your goal is buy a home you can carry comfortably, even if life gets messy. Because life always gets messy. And if you're a seller, your goal isn't to win 2021 again. Your goal is price to the market that exists now. Understand what your buyer is actually paying monthly. That's how you sell without chasing the tail. So yes, most people are misreading the market. They're staring at the wrong indicators. They're obsessing over the headlines instead of the structure. This market isn't broken, it's sorting. And sorting markets reward preparation. If you want more of this kind of calm, structural analysis, subscribe. And tell me in the comments where you think the separation is showing up most right now. Buyers, sellers, or a specific neighborhood? I'll see you in the next one, hopefully tomorrow. Have a great evening.